Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another evening of exciting and fun, entertaining racing action at the Sim Racing Collective, the premier sim racing community racing on none other than the iRacing simulator platform that is only available on PC. And we are here today, not for one of our championship series, we are here for a one-off fun event dedicated to the Toyota GR86 Cup car, a car that has made its way onto racing grids as of 2022, debuting of course in the Toyota Gazoo Racing North America series, which does follow the official SRO campaigns of the GT World Change in America. It is a car based on the road car that definitely has made a name for itself. The successor to the Toyota GT86, which is itself a successor to the original Toyota AE86 of all those years ago from the initial D era, if many of you are alive to remember that. But as we get ready to go racing today, well, we are celebrating a car that with its punchy 2.4 litre boxer engine is one that's proving incredibly popular both on the streets and also on the tracks. But as we get ready to go racing, of course, this event being hosted at a Japanese circuit in order to honour the Japanese heritage of the Toyota manufacturer, and we're here at the Suzuka International Racing Course. Albeit, we're not going to be seeing our drivers making their way around the full out of the circuit, but instead opting to focus on the eastern aspect of the circuit. A rather short circuit compared to most, in the fact that it only consists of a grand total mileage of none other than what is 1.39 miles, and being focused on its sweeping bends that make up the first half a lap, it is a portion of the circuit which will definitely see our drivers have to show their knowledge of cornering capability if they want to come away victorious here today. But as we get ready to go racing for this one-off event, we welcome you all to it as it's broadcasted live from circuit side, and you're tuning tonight to the one and only place you can catch all the racing action and indeed for all events here at the Sim Racing Collective, and that is of course on YouTube and our official channel. Go to youtube.com and search for TSRC or the Sim Racing Collective, and you can catch in the racing action on a weekly basis, as we always do bring you some of the best action that you'll see on iRacing. But in the content review, you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be taking you through all your racing action today. And in terms of our schedule for tonight, times in the UK time zone, so that's Greenwich Mean Time GMT or Universal Coordinate Time UTC. Well, as we see in approximately 3 minutes time, we'll be making our way into our qualifying session, 10 minutes in duration, fully open as well, after which we'll be making our way to the grid for the first of our two races. Race number 1, a 10-minute sprint due to get underway at 8:15 this evening, after which we'll then take a brief breather before returning for race number 2 straight afterwards, and that will be at 8:25 approximately, and that will be our 25-minute full reverse grid race. It's going to be a packed grid, it's going to be crowded here at the domestic racing circuit, and who exactly is going to come away victorious? There's no points on the line, there's just pride and bragging rights. Well, we're about to see. But as we come into this evening of racing, well, let's talk a little bit about our host circuit in more detail, shall we? And as we can see, we are racing at the Suzuka International Racing Course East, located near the city of Suzuka in the Mie Prefecture of Japan, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps that come with it. Now, this circuit, of course, focused on the eastern side of the circuit, and you can see there on a two-dimensional image, the fact it does consist of 9 corners. However, what this two-dimensional image does not show you necessarily is the fact that this circuit definitely is one where it's all about making sure you are able to also negotiate some rather gentle but notable elevation changes. Particularly as our drivers make their way out of turn 1 in towards 2, they'll find the circuit slopes away from them downhill, while they then make their way gradually uphill through turns 3, 4, 5 and 6, before plummeting back downhill through turn number 7 to rise up to one of the higher points of this circuit at turn number 8, and then they'll loop back on themselves through turn number 9 to do it all over again. We expect plenty of laps here over our timed races, and indeed it's going to be a circuit that drivers need to get familiar with fast if they want to come away victorious. But in terms of our rules, because we can't go racing without rules, well, in terms of setup, our drivers are required to drive the Toyota GR86 Cup car with a fixed setup as provided by the Sim Racing Collective administration. Now, car damage has been switched off, which does of course means that our drivers can make contact with one another, albeit we don't encourage that contact, but understandably, if they do end up in contact with one another, well, they won't be punished for it for the simple reason that the cars will self-repair out on the road. Now, when we do go qualifying, as we mentioned only moments ago, it is an open qualifying format, so that means all the drivers will be out on the circuit, and given the fact that we do have 17 cars here today, well, that means it's going to be quite crowded there, because you take 1.4 miles, if you round it up slightly, the total mileage of the circuit, and divide it by 17, well, you've not got many miles per car. And in terms of our races, well, the race 1 grid shall be set based on the results of qualifying, whereas the race 2 grid shall be a full inversion of the results of race number 1, which means the winner of race number 1 starts at the very back of the field for race number 2, and the lowest place finisher starts on pole position for race number 2, but both of those races shall get underway via a standing start. There are no instant point limits, and therefore it does mean, of course, we can expect our drivers to get their elbows out, have a lot of fun, and hopefully they'll also keep it clean. But without further ado, that's enough talking to you about the rules and regulations. We're all here for the racing. Racing as we do look back to circuit side. Well, a couple of drives out there right now. Indeed, some of these names you'll be very familiar with, having raced the course in our series time and time again. As we do see there, Felix Smoggy making his way onwards. And, well, that is practice complete, ladies and gentlemen, in perfect time before Felix Smoggy there, I think, was going to essentially dial his Toyota into a tyre barrier. But without further ado, let's make our way into this 10-minute qualifying session and see how they all get on. And so as our drivers start to make the way out the pit lane, immediately Kieran Sharp there, one of our hosts, of course, of the Sim Racing Collective, one of our admins. He's going to be the first one out there. He doesn't get priority being an administrator. I can probably show that, ladies and gentlemen, although I think the field may be aggrieved and feels as though he is getting priority. And if you are tuning in today, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi, as we do say hello there to Garbador, who says, let the carnage begin. We also do say hello there to Nick DeBeck, a big fan, of course, of the Toyota GR86 Cup car, and one of the official administrators of the Toyota GR86 official Discord, the iRacing official series. And I do believe it is known as the Order of the GR86 there, which I think is a little bit of a spin, I think, on a Star Wars reference, although I may be incorrect about that. But as we do see the Pegasus Sim Racing driver making his way onwards, very happy to have him on the grid as well. And, well, I'm sure he's got a few fans tuned in today, as we also do say hello to Johnny Woo there, who says, unleash the menaces. And indeed on the Star Wars theme there, not necessarily because Johnny Woo said menaces, but indeed who's going to be a bit of a Phantom Menace here. And if we do see any netcode contacts, I suspect we will have some Phantom Menaces or so. But as the bet makes his way onwards, and wish him the best luck, we say hello to Matt Smith there in his car, and the Cracked Racing driver there with a very funky livery on the car. And Cracked Racing always have a knack for creating some absolutely spectacular liveries on the cars, no doubt about that, as he makes his way onwards there in the number 9, tucking into the draft of one of his rivals there. And, well, of course, remember, you can work as a team if you so desire in this qualifying session. Open qualifying does give you that option, but how powerful is the tow going to be around here? Well, simply put, it'll be strong on the straight, but beyond that, it's going to hurt you quite considerably in the corners. And in terms of these cars, well, keep in mind, of course, they are front engine, rear wheel drive, packing the best part of 220 brake horsepower through the rear wheels with a 2.4 litre Boxer D4S engine, the same engine as per the road car, a joint collaboration between Toyota and Subaru. And, well, of course, the next GR86 being rumoured, perhaps the 2027 model, from what we're hearing. The rumour is that Toyota are considering moving to a 3-cylinder developed by themselves and owning themselves. But that is a rumour. There's nothing certain in that. But we are seeing the Subaru Toyota combined engine being run here, and it's finally tuned up by Toyota Gazoo Racing North America, which really was the home of the introduction of this car, which arrived on the simulator at the same time it arrived in the real world. Indeed, iRacing releasing this car to go alongside the real-life TGR NA series, and as we do see Matt Smith making his way on down, well, he's going to go initially to 11th place there. A lot of lap times coming in, and it is a very crowded circuit out there. David Barnes, meanwhile, or DQ Dave, as he's nicknamed, and, well, he does have the rookie sticker on the back of the car there. I don't know if that should be a bit of a concern or not, and if you're wondering what we're referring to, you'll notice on the very back of the car there is a yellow square with a black X in the middle of it. And, well, for those not in the know, in the United Kingdom at least, and I do think this applies abroad as well, that means that you are typically a novice. You normally put that on the back of the car for your first few race meets, or if you go to a track day. If you haven't been to the circuit before, it warns other drivers around, please be careful, I'm a novice, therefore expect me perhaps not to be as rigid in my approach to racing compared to others, let's say. But right now, DQ Dave, or David Barnes, makes his way down towards turn of 1, and as he does so, we're coming in towards that braking zone. Well, definitely looking a bit composed there. Currently 11th fastest. And the Monster Pink machine right now definitely trying to break into that top 10 where it can. But all the way down to the back of the field, man, is Daniel Simmons, the Cracked Racing driver there, with a very funky livery on the car. I do love the way they've got their team name in amongst the graffiti down the side. Albeit, of course, it's not a what is a derogative term, say graffiti there, but in terms of what's sprayed along the bottom side of the car on the side skirt. And also on the bonnet and the roof there. They really have covered the car in the logo, and it works so effectively there for the number 56 car. But as he heads on around, we say hello there also to Vulcan Bakiradan, and also to Jarlo Bot, who's cheering on at Fabio Foggi. And where is Fabio? Here he is, the Italian driver in the Toro Tyres machine, and right now he is currently the 14th fastest. Now, how important is qualifying going to be with regards to this event? Well, for race number 1, it could prove quite valuable. Now, track position around here is important in the fact that overtaking, it's not impossible, and particularly in these cars, you are going to see plenty of elbows out racing. Much faster machines would not race this circuit. This is purely at a club level, the Suzuka E circuit, or normally relegated to track day action, whereas right now all drivers, of course, really pushing on here, and well, you could imagine this is the equivalent of a real-life club level race, these machines. Club level normally seen no more than around 300 horsepower per car, if that. But as for G makes his way, Fulci, I should say, makes his way up the hill, we're going to get on board with other drivers very shortly, and I believe we are going to get on board with none other than Felix Smoggy, as we do see the Gazoo racing machine there, your number 7 driver. Going towards the end of his current lap, coming up the hill through turn 7 in towards 8. Now getting ready to loop back on himself through 8 and 9. Very tricky sequence of corners as we do lose William Chandler. And well, here he goes then, Felix Moggy heading on to a flying lap. And let's indulge him. So making his way down across that timeline then and onwards towards turn 1. It's a long run as he gets ready to go down into that braking zone, but eventually he'll get there and heading upwards of 195 kilometers an hour, now in excess of 200. He'll look to his left-hand side for his brake marker. He lifts off and then drops down a gear before going onto the brakes and dropping all the way down to 3rd and then 2nd as he gradually meanders his way through turn 2. Heading up in towards turn 3 now, bring the car to the right-hand side and open up the corner as much as possible. Plenty of apex curb there. Now seeing a bit more apex curb into turn 4. Hard on the brakes from 3 into 4. Into the middle of the road to open up turn 5 as he comes over the crest and down in towards 6. Well, now this is all about patience. You want a very tight line. Do not let the car roll out too far. You need to get over to the right to open up turn 7. Smoggy does exactly that. And now mounted the curve there. He'll straight line the car in towards 8 and stamp on the brakes here as he now rolls his way down into 2nd gear. Taking plenty of apex plus a bit of grass and well, in fact, understeering out wide there, but it will be a valid lap just about for Felix Moggy, and that is a lap of the Suzuka East Course just like that. 1.39 miles covered in a click, and indeed they're not even a minute long the lap, and for Felix Moggy that was a 59.50. He knows he's got another 4 seconds out there because his previous best has been a 55.79. And well, that definitely looked quick, but something tells me he may think as though he can go even quicker here as he makes his way up the rise. But you can see that circuit right now, definitely very crowded out there, and well, plenty of cars out, as we do say hello to Ivan Sander, who says good evening, and good evening to you, good sir. Hope you're doing well. But right now, the man making his way down the start-finish straight and looking the quickest of everybody, it is none other than Guillermo Hamling. And well, when he is not absolutely flying high in Porsche Cup cars, as we saw this Sunday just gone, aka yesterday, well, he's also flying high here in Toyota GR86s. The man does not know how to go slow. All he knows is how to go quick, and we can't blame him, the cracked racing driver from Luxembourg, because he definitely is one of the big stars out there in the number 3. But as he tries to find his way free, and currently a whole 10th quicker than Kieran Sharp, well, lap times are definitely close between drivers here, and something tells me everybody's going to have someone to play with here, as we do look to the privacy of Valerio Tedeschi, who previously on the grid, of course, for our GT4 series last year. And they enjoyed it battling in amongst the silver class, or what was your AM class, if you will. But right now, well, the Italian driver here, the lowest of everybody, a whole second off the overall pole time. In fact, 1.1 seconds there to be a bit more precise, but he's only, by comparison, 100th off of Matt Smith. So I think it's going to be Smith and also Tedeschi and perhaps Barnes just a little bit further up the road to him in terms of time. They might be fighting for the spoils towards the back of the field, but of course that will put them at the very front of the field for race number 2. Heading up the rise he goes, 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and remember, given the fact this is a heat format session, when we do get to the end of the 10-minute qualifying session, as soon as that clock in the top left corner of your screen says 0, that's it. There is no overtime. They are not permitted to finish like they're currently on, so they've got to get the job done within the 10 minutes, not outside of it. But Jamie Nuttall, for cracked racing there, does follow what is a Playboy Bunny car there, and well, I think that was none other than Francesco Cordulo in a very colourful livery machine, and well, I'm not quite sure if that livery is 18 rated or not. I presume it's not, to be fair, if it's been uploaded onto Trading Paint, but the Passione course driver definitely showing his passion today, albeit in a slightly different way on the livery, and well, we can't blame him here, and well, as he makes his way up through turns 1 and 2. Right now, the number 75 driver definitely looking as though he's trying to break his way into the top 10, but can't quite find it. But meanwhile, can anybody else find a bit more time? Well, Nick de Beck, he's just gone to a personal best of 55.88, moving up to 7th place there in the number 6, but he's still got a bit more work to do, the Belgian driver, who hasn't raced his GR86 for a bit of time. Normally, you will see him, of course, on the weekends, racing as part of the Saturday Strength for Field races. But he's had to miss the last couple of weeks due to personal circumstances, but all's okay for the Pegasus Sim Racing driver. It's just not worked out timing-wise. He's back here today. And when we did mention to him about this event, he definitely said, sign me up straight away. Well, here he is looking to have quite a lot of fun. But when you also consider the fact that from the back to pole position, it is only half a second there. That's covering your top 7, and there's only a further, what is 2 attempts to complete the top 10, where it's going to be razor tight here, and I suspect in the race, it's going to be a very different story compared to qualifying. But as the bet comes across the line, he moves up to 6th place, just getting ahead of Stefan Hutter. Here is Hutter just behind him. They go on to their final laps, and Hutter might be the last try to get a valid lap in here. He's crossed that timeline exactly on 55 seconds remaining. I'm not sure if he's going to finish this lap, as he does go a bit wide there, having to go around the outside of Tedeschi, as we do see the number 69 driver there putting himself on the inside. Not the nicest place to go, but Stefan Hutter in the end negotiated his way on around. He's hoping he can follow de Beck here for an even quicker lap as they wind their way through the SS sequence and coming in the end in towards what will be the complex turn 6 and 7. Yellow flag meanwhile for William Chandler. That's a track limit, so I suspect he's taking too much apex at turn 9, which will count as a slowdown penalty. So his laps will be done and dusted. He'll be going no higher than 8th. But where's Guillaume Hamling? Well, he's got 14 seconds left to go. I don't think he's going to get that lap in. De Bex could be one of the last to get on through. And the privateer here comes to line as he does so. 4 seconds left on the clock as he crosses the timing line. He'll get that done, and I believe Stefan Hutter will do the same. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is qualifying complete. And let's see how they all now line up as they make the way to the grid for the first of our 2 races. And as all drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for race number 1 here in the Sim Racing Collective Japanese Sprint Race, our one-off fun event brought to you from the Suzuka International Racing Course. It is Guillaume Hamling who takes pole position in race number 1 today for Cracked Racing. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. On row number 2, it's going to be Jamie Nuttall for Cracked Racing ahead of the privateer of Vincenzo Stagnito. And then we do have Felix Woggy starting in 5th, joined on the third row of the grid by Cracked Racing for Nick De Beck for the privateer. Then we do have Stefan Hutter starting 7th there for Cracked Racing ahead of his teammate of William Chandler. And then outside the top 8, completing the top 10, it's going to be Mav Gardner for the Sim Racing Collective Esports and none other than Mura Gabbiati. And then we have outside the top 10, Francesco Cordulo starting 11th, best of the rest, ahead of Daniel Simmons. And then from the Passione course driver and the Cracked Racing drivers, it's going to be behind them. But on the 7th row, we will see Fabio Fulci ahead of Paul Sims for Simoff Racing. And then it will be none other than the machinery there of Buy Around Racing of Dave Barnes ahead of Cracked Racing's Matt Smith. And last but not least, at the back of the grid, it is going to be Valerio Tedeschi. And well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be your 17-car lineup, all itching to go green flag racing. And it's going to be a grid start, of course, which always makes the racing a little bit more intriguing. Normally, these cars do start off the back of a formation lap to get some tyre temperature and also some brake temperature, but it is going to be cold tyres and it's going to be a short run down towards turn 1. For Guillaume Hamling, he'll have the shortest run of them all, but he'll know that behind him will be a very hungry pack of GR86s all looking to try and push the way on through. And keep in mind, of course, there is no damage active for these drivers. It is all going to be about essentially just enjoying your car, get your elbows out, have plenty of fun. And if you're wondering why I was giggling slightly there a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, well, Jamie Nuttall has posted some pictures of his car after qualifying, and somehow he's been able to make the engine warming lights come on with regards to his number 10 car. And, well, I suspect he's overheated the engine at the end of qualifying. But right now, well, as we just wait for the grid procedure to be complete, we are just waiting for Nick De Beck to take his spot in 6th place on the grid. So that'll be on the left-hand side. And then we will be going green flag racing. As all drivers wait and get themselves set, well, I'm going to take a quick sip of water there because I suspect I'm going to lose my voice at this rate. We'll have to wait and see. And, well, everyone waiting and itching to go green flag racing at the moment, but I think we just have another 20 seconds or so to go, whilst we are just waiting for the last car or two to get themselves into position. But after that, we will be absolutely ready to roar. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, as we do have Nick De Beck in place, all 17 cars are on the grid. The 3-minute countdown is complete. Will we go any longer than that? I doubt it. And, well, here we go then, because here come the lights for the first of our 2 races. It is 1, it is 2, it is 3, it's 4, it's 5 in lights. And it's lights out and away we go here for the first of our 2 races today in the Sim Racing Collective Japanese Sprint. And as they sprint their way down towards turn number 1, well, Guillaume Hamling holds on to lead as Jamie Nuttall there immediately moving up into second already. Felix Woggy being absolutely swarmed here as they come down in towards the opening braking zone. Kieran Sharp on the inside of him, and meanwhile further back we have one driver for a long way back. And that's going to be Paul Sims going down the order, as meanwhile Mara Gabbiati has lost out considerably. Gabbiati all the way to the back of the field. We're coming in towards the SS sequence right now. Mav Gardner here side by side, battling with Daniel Simmons. Oh, there's contact. David Barnes in contact there with Paul Sims. And I do also believe Fabio Fulci. Oh, Fulci has rejoined. They're all rejoining now, but it's gone wrong for them. Meanwhile, it's going right for the guys at the front, although the fighting definitely kicks off. As we do see Guillaume Hamling holding on to that lead, but Jamie Nuttall is pushing him on. But as the 2 now make the way down through turns 8 and 9, the 2 Cracked Cracked Racing drives here, trying to make it a 1-2. Felix Smoggy here battling with Kieran Sharp. Sharp trying to get the move back on Smoggy after Smoggy passed him through the SS sequence, and now making the way down towards turn number 1. And on the side of Kieran Sharp there, well, that's the conspiracy theory livery on the car for you, saying birds are not real. And well, right now, I'll tell you one thing, if Kieran Sharp takes the win, will he be taking flight or will he be a wingless bird of his own? Well, meanwhile, Jamie Nuttall dives up the inside there, and Gwilym Hamling does not respond, keeps the space open. And well, I suspect right now the two of them are trying to break away a little bit more. But further back, hold up a second, Nick DeBeck's got around. I'm not quite sure where he's been pushed or not. We did see a car go out wide there, and well, as they all rejoin, Woodbeck gets himself going once again straight away. And your number 6 driver here now picking up the pieces. As meanwhile, well, there we get a faithful of the Playboy machine of Francesco Cadulo. And the Passione course driver right now losing out there to Daniel Simmons and Mav Gardner, with both drivers there running a little bit wide. And well, as a result, Cadulo was the one who went the widest of everybody coming up through turns 4 into 5 and 6. And that's why he's lost the places. Back into 9th place. Vincenzo Stagnito, people just behind, as we can see there, Gardner and Simmons fighting side by side, albeit Daniel Simmons exploring track limits and then decides to turn his car into a rallycross machine as he brings his way back on, and now Cadulo's going to power his way on past. Stagnito, meanwhile, also in the draft there, trying to slip through his way on through. You can see him as the left-hand car of the picture in almost the 3 wide, but in the end, it is going to be Daniel Simmons who loses the 2 places for the price of 1 small error. But under braking, that's going to be Stagnito now at the inside of Cadulo. Cadulo goes to the switchback here. Classic racing between these two. And well, the number 21 right now being distracted by the Playboy Bunny on the side of Wes Cadulo's car. And we're definitely distracting us here in the content booth, ladies and gentlemen. Appeal your eyes, please. And meanwhile, we come back to your leaders. And we see Gwilym Hamling right now leading a long line and lineage of machinery, which is your top 4. As he does have behind him Nuttall, Sharp and Smoggy coming over the crest of 8 in towards 9. And the Luxembourgish driver right now for Cracked Racing doing everything right so far in the number 3. But understandably with Nuttall, Sharp and Smoggy close behind him. Well, the top 4 here, Bobby the Weaving, Hamlin just trying to dictate exactly when they're going to fight each other rather than fight him. As they get ready for turn number 1, Hamlin now goes to fence in the middle of the road here. Nuttall looking around the outside. He's going to go for it. And well, these two definitely get their elbows out now. Things are starting to get a little bit serious. It's door to door. They're coming up the hill. And Kieran Sharp, meanwhile, tries to squeeze his way through. Bit of contact there with Nuttall. And Nuttall now is going to go too wide. And we can see that Felix Smoggy trying to push Nuttall onwards to get him a move forward. And well, this top 4 now starting to scatter a little bit. Stefan Hutter, well, he's on to 5th place there, just ahead of William Chandler. But back towards that lead grip. Hold up a second. How on earth has Jamie Nuttall been escorted wide there? He's gone over the grass. And turn number 5 in towards 6. Well, Nuttall rejoins at the back of this group, although he does have a yellow flag, so he does have a slowdown there, does Jamie. So he's going to lose a bit of time here to the leaders. And well, I get the feeling he might have been elbowed off the road for that one. But as we do continue to see them making the way around to complete another lap, well, let's take a quick trip back in time and bring you some replays of moments from earlier on in the race. So this was at the start when we went green flag race and we're looking for Mauro Gabbiati. And what exactly went wrong here for the prize in the 17? And he was turned there in contact with another car. I believe that might have been contact with none other than Mav Gardner there, although not 100% certain. But that was Gabbiati being turned, but thankfully gets the car out the water and goes racing immediately. And then we had this for Sims, Fulci and Barnes as the 3 of them made the way into turns 3 and 4. And when then Sims making contact there with Fulci and Barnes at the back of it being picked up by the instant. So it went a bit wrong for all 3 of them. Then on our second lap, we had this for Nick DeBeck as he made his way down into turns 1 and 2. Tap on the rear there, and well, that sent one car wayward, and DeBeck in the end got turned around as well. And that was the 21 of Vincenzo Stagnito hitting on the back there. I think DeBeck just catches Stagnito out in terms of how early he broke by comparison to what the Italian was planning to do. And that explains their story. And then we had this for Daniel Simmons only moments later, where the Cracked Racing driver decided as he made his way down through turn 9 to give some space and then gave himself no road to race with. And that's what enabled him to fall down the order. And then we just had this for Jamie Nuttall. Nuttall deciding in the side-by-side here with Kieran Sharp. Came through 3 in towards 4. And in the end, there was a brief touch that sent him sideways. And Jamie Nuttall, in the end, decided to rejoin on the exit of turn number 5 up towards 6. But back to your live race we come. And as we do, even more to go, and right now he tries pushing on at Stefan Hutter. Well, he's on the back of William Chandler, and Chandler's found his way on past quite recently, so Stefan Hutter has lost out a little bit, although Chandler, I think, will now bring him up towards leaders if they want to work together. And we're still over half, we're just under half the race to go at this point, plus a final lap, so there's a bit more intrigue in the story here before all is said and done. But coming over the crest in towards turns 8 and 9. Meanwhile, hold up a second, that's Nuttall into the barrier there, almost into the pit lane as well. What exactly has gone wrong for the Cracked Racing driver? He was pushing hard to catch back up to the top 3, but in the end, I think he's pushed a little bit too hard and sent himself sideways there. As meanwhile, Paul Sims runs out wide coming out of the final corner. And Fabio Fulci will take the place back off in there for 14th place. And well, things are going a bit topsy-turvy for those drivers as Jamie Nuttall now under pressure with Daniel Simmons. Simmons looking for the move. Is that going to work? No, it's not. So Nuttall will hold on to 8th place. But definitely right now, it looks as though for Nuttall, things are not going in the right direction whatsoever. And whilst there's no damage to these cars, we do have tyre wear active. So therefore, they will have to be careful about the fact if they spike the tyres in terms of heat, they are going to lose that grip that they need in these machines in order to be able to get the best possible run of the lap. Because, of course, this is a circuit that definitely does rely on mechanical grip just as much as it does aerodynamical grip. Looking all the way from them to Nick de Beck. He's on the back of this group now in the 5th of the runners, 11th overall, and he wants to try and pick his way and pass where he can. Coming over the hill and down in towards turn number 9. That's not going to work out right now, but he goes for a good long run out the corner and try to pick up the quadruple draft, if you will. Albeit these cars, they do cut a big hole in the air in front of them. And well, meanwhile, Stagnito is scored to Nuttall to the wall. And in the end, they literally go from wall to middle road. Stagnito can only make one move, and in the end, he will be on that inside now to Nuttall. Nuttall goes around the outside and there, under braking. And well, these two, they've raced each other plenty of times over the last couple of years. They know each other like the back of their respective hands. And in the end, Stagnito will hold on just for a little bit longer, but in towards turn number 3. Nuttall the inside now to the outside here, heading up the hill. And when Nuttall gets the better exit, he's going to do the inside into turn number 5. And I think Nuttall will get this done. Indeed, he just slots in. And well, there you can see an attempt to come back from none other than Stagnito. And we're coming on down right now. And it is going to be Daniel Simmons who's on the back of this, with Cordulo and de Beck all queuing up. But as they all build up a long queue, well, meanwhile, we've got to cut away from this because we have a change of race leader. As this is Felix Swoggy being pushed across the start-finish line by Kieran Sharp. And well, right now, Gwilym Hamling on the right of your picture. He's the one without anybody giving him a little bit of a push. He'll be a bit jealous of the fact that Kieran Sharp is showing all the love to Felix Smoggy and not him. And as they come in towards turn number 1, well, right now, Smoggy go defensive and cracked race. And the two crack racing drivers make a rolling roadblock at the front of the field. Albeit it's the 7 ahead of the 3. And Kieran Sharp now trying to squeeze his way through for victory. But as the Birds Aren't Real machine now looks his way around the outside to inside. Well, if Birds are not real, they explain how they can fly in terms of these cars. I'm not quite sure there in terms of what he's going to be able to do now, as Gwilym Hamling is going to continue to push that 2 wide. But then even he finds his limits and backs off, falling back into 3rd place as Hamling. And meanwhile, William Chandler 1.6 seconds back. Watching the battle in front of him unfold at a distance, but he thinks to himself, how exactly do I get involved in that? And well, what he's got to do first and foremost is find a little bit of time, because his laps at the moment are a couple of tenths a lap slower by comparison, and that's not helping. Last lap he was 4 tenths slower, and taking a bit of grass there for good measure coming out the final corner. That's not going to help him on his adventure. Stefan Hutter falling a little bit back by comparison, and meanwhile Jamie Nuttall has picked up a yellow flag. That's a slowdown, but he's serving down the start-finish straight, and that is going to bring Stagnito right into the back of him. And well, we saw plenty of fireworks between these two only a lap ago, and there's going to be more, but before they go firework hunting, meanwhile, here's Nick de Beck trying to find his way around the outside of Cordulo. He's not going to find it initially, but now he cuts the inside there, but Francesco Cordulo just parks the car at the apex in the nick of time. So therefore, de Beck pushing hard as we get on board. Well, over the top view of the number 6, but as he makes his way up the rises here right now for de Beck, the challenge is going to be essentially finding the right place to make that move, because Cordulo seems to be his equal at the moment, and well, these two definitely locking horns. Going down in towards 7. Well, for de Beck right now, looking up the inside there, but he's going to very quickly find himself on the outside here for 8 and 9. But he can try and cut it a little bit deep here at 8 to set up a tighter run through turn number 9, and he does that, and actually gets Cordulo to outbrake himself here as we go into the final lap of racing. And de Beck's going to look for the move here, looking all the way out the inside as they power the wheel down. And well, right now for de Beck, this is going to be a drag race of all proportions. It's just in front of them. You've got a 2x2 happening there for Stagnito versus Nuttall, and as they come into opening corner, meanwhile de Beck and Cordulo together, but Cordulo gets ahead. Nuttall meanwhile up the inside there, and then the outside, and Stagnito takes the place back off him. de Beck still fighting with Cordulo, and well, these two fighting hard, and de Beck gets ahead. Meanwhile, in terms of your leaders, there's your top 3, Smoggy, Sharp and Hamling. They've been like this now for the last couple of laps. The clock strikes 0, so the checker flag awaits them this time around, and right now Felix Smoggy absolutely glued to the back of Sharp. Well, in terms of, he's glued ahead of Sharp, we should say. That's Hamling glued to the back of him, and right now Felix Smoggy here, I think all he's got to do is get a good corner exit, and this will be done and dusted for him. Although we'll see as he comes out the final corner, and well, it's a good exit for Felix Smoggy. It's going good, it's going great, because he takes the win in race number 1 of the day. Kieran Sharp and Gwilym Hamling will complete your podium ahead of William Chandler, and then we will see Stefan Hutter take 5th place there ahead of Mav Gardner, with Vincenzo Stagnito in 7th place ahead of Jamie Nuttall, and it will be Nick de Beck and Francesco Cordulo who complete your top 10, with Daniel Simmons in 11th place ahead of Fabio Fulci, and then we do have Valerio Tedeschi, Paul Sims, Matt Smith, Mauro Gabbiati and and David Barnes, who will complete your finishing order. All of them on the lead lap and all in good time. What it means is David Barnes will be your pole sitter for race number 2 when we flip the grid, and it will be a 25-minute race. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we immediately make our way to that second grid, and this is how they all will line up for our second and final race of the day. There's no breather for our drivers other than the gridding process, so it's Barnes or David Barnes on pole position there for by around round racing, head of Mauro Gabbiati, the privateer, and then we are going to see in third Matt Smith for Cracked Racing just ahead of Paul Sims. The swim off racing driver, then followed up by Valerio Tedeschi and Fabio Fulci, and then it is going to be Daniel Simmons for Cracked Racing ahead of Passione Corse's Francesco Cadulo. Starting in 9th, it's going to be Nick DeBeck there, the privateer, just ahead of Jamie Nuttall for Cracked Racing, looking to go forward in this one rather than backwards. And then we will see outside that top 10 on the 6th row of the grid, Vincenzo Stagnito, head of Mav Garner for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Outside your first 6 rows on row 7, it's going to be Stefan Hutter for Cracked Racing ahead of William Chandler, his teammate. And then we will see on the final full row of the grid, starting 15th, Guillaume Hamling, your third place finisher in race number 1 for Cracked Racing. Head of the Sim Racing Collective Esports is Kieran Sharp. And then your winner of race number 1, starting last but not least in 17th place, it is going to be Felix Moggy for Cracked Racing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's how they're all going to line up. They'll all be absolutely eager to go green. And, well, with all that grid set and ready to go, well, it doesn't leave us too much time, does it, before we do go racing. And we look forward to seeing what exactly is going to unfold this time out. But most of the grid is there. And, well, as we do see Johnny Wu saying that the only Cracked car not running a team livery wins, figures. A bit of a coincidence there. Well, what exactly will happen this time round? Who exactly will get the best start? Will we see anybody into the grass in the opening couple of corners? We hope for a clean start, of course, but we did see some elbows out raced in race number 1, and I suspect there's going to be plenty more in this one as well. As we do wait for the last couple of cars to make their way into position on the grid, it's definitely been an entertaining event of racing so far, and some very clean and fair racing, to be fair, between our drivers, although there were a few altercations. But to be fair, you're always going to see a couple of those when the racing is this close and thick and fast. But as we do jump on the onboard, with Jamie Nuttall starting all the way back here in none other than 10th place. We're right in the midst of the field, but how quick a start can he get? And of course, to the left of him, when we see the car appear, it will be Nick DeBeck who's starting 9th place there. And when Nick DeBeck proving that he can make his car just as wide as he can also make it thin to try and look up the inside of another car. Felix Moggy, meanwhile, well, he has a face full of GR86s to try and carve his way through. He's got 16 of them between himself and a win. And can he make it 2 out of 2 here today? Can he be the king of the GR86s? Or will somebody else be able to split the wins between him and themselves? Well, we're not too far away from seeing that, because as the last cars make their way onto the grid, well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for race number 2. The clock counts down 5 seconds and the lights procedure will get underway. And it'll be to David Barnes versus Mauro Gabbiati to get us underway. And so the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. Here come the lights. And so for 25 more minutes of racing, it's going to be 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go here for the second and final time today in the TSRC Japanese Sprint. And as they make their way away, David Barnes immediately coming off and, well, going so wide there to the point of using the pit lane. And in the end, well, it's all kicked off before they've even gone racing. So that's David Barnes being kicked out the way, essentially by contact with Mauro Gabbiati. And well, both drivers there wanted the inside line. And, well, in the end, taking it a bit too far. But Paul Sims immediately leaps into the lead as they come roaring up in towards turn number 3. And right now, the Pennzoil machine trying to make amends for race number 1. Behind him is Matt Smith going too wide. But all the field right now segueing the way through the SS sequence, and as they come charging up the hill, well, Matt Smith right now on the inside of Gabbiati. That's not going to work as they come over the crest and down, but behind Fulci and DeBeck there with him, and meanwhile further back, Vincenzo Stagnito's got out, and I do believe he's into the gravel. Somebody's propelled him there, alternatively that's his own volition, but I think it's the former. And well, towards the very back there, we do have Stefan Hutter battling with Kieran Sharp, and oh, there's a car being turned sideways. It's all pandemonium here, coming over the rising to 8 and 9, and William Chandler's been ejected out as his car repairs itself there, going full Herbie mode, and now gets itself back together. But going down at the start-finish straight here, well, after one lap, we do see Paul Sims leading by 9 tenths, so he might be able to break away at this rate with Mauro Gabbiati in second, and it's Matt Smith in third. Fabio Fulci sits in fourth, meanwhile, ahead of Nick DeBeck, with Jamie Nuttall, Francesco Cadulo, and then Guillaume Hamling, Daniel Simmons, and Felix Moggy completing your top 10. Best of the rest of the length right now is Kieran Sharp on the back of this group, as right now Felix Moggy, he is part of the Cracked Racing team, but you can understand that his teammates are Simmons and Hamling in front. Well, they might be not willing to let him go, even if attacking the RT mates just for the simple reason, well, he hasn't quite got the team livery there, but he immediately tucks up the inside of none other than Daniel Simmons, who makes a complete ham sandwich coming out to turn 5, and well, that was not the line to take there whatsoever. Now Kieran Sharp's got to try and find his way through as well. Nick de Beck looking around the outside here to try and hold off Jamie Nuttall. These two side by side coming out of turn 8 and 9. Some classic racing between these two as they roar the way onwards, and we ride aboard the front bumper here of your number 6. Well, cuts one way then the other, but gets so close to the moment, and well, the camera being taken off the front of the car there as they make their way down towards turn number 1 at once again. You're going to get plenty of laps here before this race is said and done, and well, the sun going away a little bit of cloud coming out, and well, just simply hiding the sun for a brief moment. We're coming through 2 in towards 3. It's a lot of apex curve there being taken by Matt Smith, and that upsets the balance of the car. And in fact, also Fabio Fulci taking even more apex curve by comparison through 2. And when in the privateer right now, trying to hold on for dear lives. That's a look up the inside there, and Nuttall got quick it done. The next spin turn, he goes sideways, but he gets pointed back at the straight and narrow. And 3 wide, they're coming down through turn number 6 into 7. And in the end, Gwellam Hamling makes his way past the ball. Well, I'm not quite sure how exactly he's got that done. We'll have to get a replay of that. I think there was more to the story than meets the eye with that one. And as they make the way onwards, well, meanwhile, Jamie Nuttall and fighting there as Matt Smith falls down the order, and well, Fabio Fulci now holding on. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Smith. I think there's been a bit of an elbow out there as they make the way down the start finish straight. Our 2 leaders meanwhile trying to break away, and right now Sims were 2-10 gap over Gabbiati. Well, here comes the Italian, looks up the inside once, thinks about it twice, and on the 3rd time he's not going to go for it at all because it's too late to do so. Fulci meanwhile sat in 3rd ahead of Nuttall, and well, Gwellam Hamling battling there with Smith and Smoggy, and in the end, well, the pressure is building on what is Matt Smith to try and hold on as he goes deep at 2. That's going to give Kieran Sharp all the confidence he needs to make a move, as meanwhile just behind that's de Beck versus Daniel Simmons. So Nick de Beck right now, he may have been turned around on the previous lap. I can tell you one thing, he has not turned his smile into a frown. He's enjoyed himself out there and is absolutely going for it. And keep in mind, of course, we do have no damage on to enable drivers to get back in. That's why it's a bit more of a casual race here today. But also, I think our drivers now started to really take this seriously, as it's going to be 2 by 2 there just in front, as we do see Hamling and Gabbiati together, and now Smoggy and Sharp side by side here coming out the corner. Just behind, that's de Beck and Simmons as well. Right now, this is not Noah's Ark, unless in the Bible they said it was GR86 is going 2 by 2 onto the boat, but it's absolutely brilliant race in action. And 2 wide is going to be the Fever as they come down towards turn number 1 again, because Simmons might be ahead, but here comes Jamie Nuttall up the inside of Fabio Fulci. And Fulci does not have a response there other than to let it go. Gwellam Hamling is bringing the next pack of cars with him here. I think he wants to lose the ball, but he's not going to have a chance of doing that as I head up the hill and in towards turns 3 and 4. And on the back there, Kieran Sharp right now still 2 wide with Smoggy. And Smoggy, who started from the very back of the field after winning race number 1. Well, right now he's up into 6th place here. Another 5 to go, and this might be another win to add to his record books. Behind, Stefan Hutter there, still chasing on the back of Valerio Tedeschi. And Tedeschi right now staying firmly in 13th place with David Barnes, Vincenzo Stagnito and William Chandler at the very back of this field. But at any moment, of course, things could be completely turned upside down and around. But with that, we take a look back to the start of the race, ladies and gentlemen, and what exactly happened right at the beginning. So this was at the start of the race, and of course the big moment at the very start was David Barnes and none other than what was Mauro Gabbiati going literally toe-to-toe, heading down the start finish straight. Barnes coming all the way across, even more so, squeezing at Gabbiati then, and in the end Gabbiati putting his nose in there and saying to Barnes, if you're going to do that, I'm going to send you on around. And Barnes immediately rejoined at the back of the field, but as they came in towards the opening couple of corners, well then it was all about Paul Sims trying to take the lead of the race as quickly as he could. But then we had a bit of drama after the opening couple of corners, because this is what happened to Vincenzo Stagnito as he made his way up in towards turns 5 and 6, and in the end, well, contact there with the cracked racing machine that propelled him on around, and I believe that might have been what was none other than Daniel Simmons he was in contact with. We had this from Mav Gardner only a bit late on lap number 1. This is coming up into turns 7 and 8. The Sim Racing Collective eSports driver made his way up the hill, and as he did so, a tap there from the Playboy machine on his inside and sent Gardner on around, and then there was a further collection by William Chandler and Stefan Hutter, so that explains what happened to them. We had what was a big moment a bit later for Chandler as well on lap number 5. And this was Chandler coming down in towards turns 1 and 2 with Barnes behind him, and Barnes giving a tap on the rear there. And well, David Barnes definitely right now deciding not to play fair with the cracked racing driver, but I get the feeling there might be a bit of past history between those two and they're having a bit of fun out there with it. But meanwhile, we come back to your live racing, and as we do, well, suddenly we leave it alone for a moment and it's all gone absolutely haywire at the front of the field. Now, what on earth has happened there? I suspect we're going to need to go back in time to find out, because suddenly Jamie Nuttall is leading, that's for certain, but Fabio Fulci, Gwellam Hamling, Kieran Sharp, they're all there, and suddenly the man who was leading the race, or Paul Sims, has been relegated all the way back. So Jamie Nuttall right now taking control of this, and as they make their way down through turns 8 into 9, well, it's definitely absolutely exploded our screens here in terms of all the fighting. We have a replay on standby as to what exactly happened, but going on to now what will be lap number 8. Well, they're not even halfway through this race right now, and well, we can see a flash of the headlights there for Fulci, trying to say to Nuttall, I'm coming for you. All 30, I want to work with you. We're not quite sure what the Morse code is for this one. We're going down in towards turns 1 and 2. Right now, he's got to look around the outside. On the inside goes Hamling there. Bit of contact, a bit of squeeze from Fulci in return, and then they both survive it just about right now, but Jamie Nuttall trying to break away as it is going to be a yellow flag. There's a slowdown for Hamling for too much apex at turn number 2, and this is going to give Kieran Sharp every bit of confidence he needs to go around the outside to inside from 4 into 5. So Sharp moves his way into second now as a touch to the rear of Fulci's car. I think that was none other than Hamling tapping him on the rear, but 2 by 2 coming down the hill and up into the rise of turns 7 and 8. And right now this race absolutely on a knife edge here as Kieran Sharp trying to find his way past Jamie Nuttall. He's on the attack here, and a little bit of a love bump there from Hamling on the inside of Gabbiati. Oh, there's contact for G. That sends him round, and that's going to knock what is, oh goodness me, that's going to be a corridor. That's Matt Smith turning around. The cracked racing driver there into the barrier, and well, the car will be repaired immediately, but I'm not quite sure if the bruises to him are going to be repaired straight away. That's going to bruise his momentum as he's in the wall at the back of the picture, but meanwhile, the very foreground of your picture, Nuttall on what is the battle with Kieran Sharp. Sharp looking around the outside, they can't quite make it happen. Felix Smoggy now trying to get involved as well. The 3 big names at the start of race number 1. They're now all the way back together with just over the half of the race to go. And Nick de Beck, meanwhile, making his way out through the field. He's up in a 4th place. Right now, the Belgian driver is absolutely on a mission here. He wants to show off the fact that he's part of the loyal order of the GR86, and therefore he wants to be bringing home a win for the Discord community today. But is he going to be able to do so? Because the gap to Felix Smoggy is 7 tenths, and then he's got to try and find a way in amongst that trio to steal away the win. Back behind Stephen Hutter here, still on the back of G. These two, of course, relegated back after what happened on the exit of this corner only a lap ago. But as quickly as all the drama occurs, it stops, and straight away all the drivers get their heads down and go battling once again. And that's what we absolutely love to see in these fun one-off events. It's serious fun, it's serious business. But then again, when is it not at the Sim Racing Collective as our leaders come down into 1 and 2? And Sharp this time, can he do anything differently? The answer is no. It's going to be Smoggy on the inside this time, however. He does try to get his elbows out a little bit more. As for G, meanwhile, goes up the inside there of Stefan Hutter for 8th place. So smooth move there for G. Getting that place back. And Mauro Gabbiati, meanwhile, now on the back of this in the Pennzoil machine. After almost being turned around only months ago, but sent to the gravel most definitely. And now he's looking to go fighting here with his German counterpart. From inside to outside, he's going to try it. But he's not going to have the momentum to get the job done. But we take a quick look back very shortly as to how exactly Paul Sims got relegated down the order, ladies and gentlemen, and here's a quick replay to explain. Now, this was on lap number 6. Jamie Nuttall was on the outside there, so he'd already gone for the move on Sims, and then what exactly happened to Paul Sims afterwards is the question, and the answer seems to be that Sims at the end was just swarmed by cars coming down towards turn 1. On his inside, that was going to be none other than what was Fulci's car. So they went 3 wide into the opening corner. Sims right in the middle of the road here. That's not a safe place to be. And there was contact between Nuttall and Sims, and that is what sent Sims all the way to the back of his pack, as Nuttall, meanwhile, got away with that unscathed for the most part, although he did then get caught up in the fight for 3rd. But back to your live pictures we go. So that explains the story of Paul Sims, but he is at the back of this group right now, trying to get back into it as quickly as he can. You can see him at the rear of the picture there briefly, just ahead of Fulci. And meanwhile, looking back to said Italian driver, the privateer right now the 369. He's running close to Sims, and he's got Stefan Hutter, Gabbiati and Simmons for close company as well. So are we going to suddenly see the top 11 split into 2 packs, whereby it's going to be the top 6 that break away, and then it will be 7 through to 11 who all do then have to fight for the rest of the spoils. Behind Valerio Tedeschi, who hope he get a bit closer here, given the fact he is currently running 12th. He's 1.6 seconds behind the second group. Gabbiati here going side by side with Simmons. They're going to be 2 wide coming down towards that braking zone. And it's going to be the correct racing drive. Simmons on the inside there. And Gabbiati does not fight it too hard, knowing that their fight is going to cost them time. Although he does cut back to the inside here at turn number 2. And that is going to be Simmons going a bit deep. So therefore there could be a change between these two in reality now. So they're coming towards the S's. And well, Simmons goes defensive. Now Gabbiati will do the same back on the inside of 4. But in the end, Daniel Simmons will move ahead there as they close it up at turn number 5. For your leaders, Jamie Nuttall, Sharp, Smoggy, de Beck and Hamling. These 5 now definitely pulling away as Mav Gardner falling back a little bit. I think the pace here for Gardner's proving a little bit too quick at this point in time, and I don't think he's got the pace to be able to stay with them. And coming out to the final corner, we'll push him very hard there. and in turn actually making an error, and that error is going to bring him backwards towards full G. And in terms of the slipstream zone of these machines, they do pick up a tow from 2 seconds back, and it is quite a notable tow from 2 seconds away. But once you get to 1 second in particular, you really do build up a lot of speed as you close to the car in front. And when we say that, we're talking about the best part of 2 to 3 kilometers now on a straight. But given the fact these cars are topping out on the straight, or the one and only straight we have here, the best part of what would be almost 200 kilometers now, well, 2 to 3 kilometers now is a big difference. Weaving and winding the way up the hill, we come back to Valerio Tedeschi, who is being swarmed here by his fellow countryman of Vincenzo Stagnito, who has moved ahead of him. And then William Chandler's all over the back right now, and Chandler's trying to find a way in when he can, looking from one side to the other, outside to inside here as he rolls off. And we're going up the rise now. And I think this is going to be, for the Cracked Racing driver, an opportunity, as he's going to try and look all the way around there through turn number 8 in towards 9. But it doesn't seem to be coming through. As we ride aboard the dashboard of your number 8. And well, coming out to that corner, he's got to try and do it all over again. There's racing everywhere, regardless of where you are in the field right now. And Chandler getting a huge run here. That's the slipstream for you. So strong. And now balls out the toe here. He's going to go to the inside as they head down to that braking zone. And well, I think Chandler here is going to have this done before they get to the apex of turn number 1. Yes, he will. They've just got to get the car stopped. And he does that successfully. Back to the front. Jamie Nuttall. We look from the rear of your race leader. And we can see the long line of cars as they come rolling up the hill through turns 5, 6, and in towards 7 shortly. They'll descend. But it's Nuttall right now trying to keep himself together. And Kieran Sharp definitely right now looking to poke and probe every which way. Here comes Smoggy looking up the inside through 8. Well, Sharp runs a little bit wide there, takes some grass with him, and Smoggy's going to move on in. So therefore, Jamie Nuttall will fall back, and Sharp again give the elbow there, coming out to turn number 9, pushing him to the grass slightly, but he'll rejoin at the back of his group as Nick DeBeck now will squeeze on through, and Gwilym Hamling is also going to try and find a way in here, but will Sharp let them all go, or will he decide now to start playing against the toe? Well, coming in towards that braking zone, it's going to be Sharp on the outside here, Hamling going defensive, and Sharp right now using the grip as much as humanly possible. But what we can see is DeBeck is getting into the throes of battling with Felix Smoggy, and Nick DeBeck now only 2 places away from potentially taking the lead of this race. He's inching his way forward little by little. Race number 1, I think, was a race of just building the pace, whereas now your privateer in the number 6 is definitely looking a lot quicker compared to the previous race of the Pegasus Sim Racing car here. The team are going to definitely be believing at this point they might be able to make that win happen, but we will see. Mav Gardner, meanwhile, a bit further back, he's had a bit of a poor run there coming through turn number 6 into 7, and that puts him very much at risk now of losing out versus Fulci and Hutter, who are behind. But the good news for him is the fact that these two are fighting, so actually they've just cost themselves the 3 tenths they needed to be in the toe of Gardner's car, so Mav Gardner stays safe for a little bit longer. But back to the top 4 or the top 5 fight. And it is going to be Sharp on the inside of Hamling now as they go on to lap number 16. 10.5 minutes left to go. You do the quick mathematics. We are expecting approximately another 11 laps, including this one. So still plenty of time for some action in this race. As Hamling there finds himself elbowed to the outside into turn number 3. And Sharp in does make his way through. Albeit, to be fair, when we say elbows out, it's door-to-door rubbing. And it is relatively clean and respectful racing between these drivers, which is absolutely brilliant. But all the way back, Paul Sims, he's still got Mauro Gabbiati behind him, and in front of him, that's Daniel Simmons. So he finds himself right now in the midst of those two. He's been there for quite some time. I mean, he's hoping for a little bit more progress where he can, but right now he's definitely not quite able to make that progress as much as he would like. Rolling way down through turns 8 to 9. A change further up the road. We have had Nick DeBeck be passed by Kieran Sharp, so Sharp has moved his way into 3rd. DeBeck has let it go, I think, down through turns 8 to 9. But as they come on towards this lap, this time around, well, now it's Gwilym Hamling trying to find a way in as we jump on board the front bumper of your number 3 driver, Cracked Racing. And here, well, it's going to be a bit of a patience game, and understandably, the problem is going to be if he starts to fight with DeBeck or Sharp, do they lose the top 2? You can see those gaps. They are starting to extrapolate a little bit, whereby Nuttall now have a 7 tenths of a second gap ahead of Smoggy, and it's a further 7 tenths between Smoggy and Sharp. If those gaps grow any further, then they'll start to lose the toe, and suddenly it might become a fight for 3rd rather than a fight to stay with the leaders, which they won't want at this point in the race. As Hamlin getting close there, Flames spitting out the rear of DeBeck's car. That's a little bit of excess fuel being burnt off. Going down through turn 9 right now, no change there. Your top 5, they all seem to get their heads down here. The 2 leaders, understandably, they want to break away. Meanwhile, 3rd through to 5th, they've all decided, wait, the leaders are breaking away. We can't afford that. We've got to work together now. But meanwhile, battling side by side here in the fight for 10th place, it's going to be Paul Sims on the right of your picture versus Mauro Gabbiati on the left. The Pennzoil Privateer, he's going to go up the the inside here, try to make the move stick, and under brake it he will initially, but now come through turn number 2. What's it going to be? And the answer, simply put, is that Paul Sims doesn't have a response there as William Chandler watches on from behind. And the crack racing driver in the number 8, well, definitely right now breathing down the neck of Sims and hoping they can make some magic happen. Vincenzo Stagnito, he's watching a bit further back at the moment, can't quite get involved, but I think that might be the calm before the proverbial storm. And I think the battles are just calming down a little bit here, but I wonder if this is all going to be for one last blast in the last 5 minutes or so, because right now all these packs, they are splintering and nobody wants to let the packs break up, and that's why everyone is now calming down. As we do look to Fabio Fulci, the 7th place runner, he has got 7 Hertha still behind him as they have caught up to Mav Gardner. So Gardner now has been relegated into a fight for 6th through to 9th for the remainder of this race. You can see Daniel Simmons at the distant run of the group. And then we do have there, that is Gaviati and Sims together as William Chandler, well, he's hidden himself in amongst them just behind. Chandler trying to find a way to get a little bit more involved as he comes out of turn number 2. It's going to be 3 wide here in towards turn 3. This is not normal. Chandler surely has got back out here as Gaviati in the end goes up the inside, scrapes the paint off the side of Sims' car to make sure he holds the place. Paul Sims, I think he's been absolutely bamboozled by that contact. And well, now William Chandler on the back of this. Chandler had to back out as well. And Stagnito all over the back of this as he comes all around the corner. But right now, all 4 drivers and definitely get fast and furious, but understandably, Gabiati there trying to use that inside line at turn number 3 to break away. Sims tries to go very deep under braking, but he goes way too deep. That's going to be 3 wide at the exit at turns 8 into 9, but it's only going to be 2 wide at the exit, and it is going to be Stagnito on the inside of Charlie. He passes Sims, he's on the inside of Charlie now, and down that start finish straight, and Gabiati there offering the tow initially to his fellow countryman to try and help him out, but as they come down the straight, it's elbows out between them. Here comes Sims the other side, and well, very close to the barriers there for the 3 drivers, but they managed to survive it. And now Stagnito just holding that inside line. Sims is going to dive up the inside there, go for the move on Chandler. Can he get it done? Not quite now, but it will be a run up towards turns 3 and 4. And Sims then falls backwards there for Simoff Racing. It's not going to work out on the outside, and he'll pick up some dirt and gravel on the tyres, and it's going to force him a little bit further back. But brilliant racing between them, right on the ragged edge, and we'll still more to come. But back to Jamie Nuttall we come, and well, he's catching up to David Barnes, who'll be going a lap down at this rate. David Barnes, of course, involved in that open lap altercation between himself and Gabiati. And well, as we do see Nuttall make his way on through, 6 tenths is the gap to Smoggy and Sharp, so be hoping he can continue to drop them a little bit. But now he's got the draft of the car in front of him. That's not going to help him necessarily into the fast right-hander at turn number 1, but it will aid him if he continues to find it on the straight sections. But we can see there Barnes right now just hold his racing line as behind. That's going to be Smoggy and another Sharp side by side coming in towards turns 3 and 4. And well, meanwhile, that's going to be up the inside for Nuttall on Barnes, so he's going to find his way out past. But now Smoggy and Sharp are going to have to find their way past the pink monster machine. And well, coming on through, there's going to be a bit of a tactical move there from Kieran Sharp, using the outside to inside approach there, and they duck to the inside of David Barnes. And suddenly Kieran Sharp moves up into 2nd place. Nick DeBeck goes around the outside, and oh, there's contact to the rear of Barnes' car. And DeBeck in the end trying to find his way through, but Barnes is stabilised and taking a very, very close run to the escape there. That's going to be Guillaume Hamling. It got very close there between all the drivers, but Hamling and DeBeck still fighting side by side here. And well, right now, hasn't quite worked out. And coming over the rise of turn number 8 there, and well, David Barnes definitely being given a knock on the back of the car. I wonder if he tried to brake on the inside there at turn number 8 to try and get out the way. But as they come down towards turn number 1, DeBeck trying to come on cross, and we'll Guillaume Hamling staying right with him. Well, right now, it definitely is a fierce battle between these two. And DeBeck on that inside line holding on to 4th, but I think Hamling's got other ideas here as they get ready to go through the S's, albeit he's not going to show him those ideas just yet. Further back, Chandler, Stagnito, and also none other than Gabiati all together here. And the 2 Italian drivers right now, they're door-to-door coming up into the S's, still fighting each other incredibly hard. As meanwhile, William Chandler on too much apex curve there at turn number 3, and that upsets the car and forces him backwards. We're coming all the way now towards turns 5 and 6. Well, Gabiati at this point, as we look back from the rear of the lead in Pennzoil machine. Well, running in 10th at the moment, and there's a bit of a contact to the rear of the car. It sends him sideways, but he just gets it together in the nick of time. He's going to be turned by Chandler, who has follow-up contact, and up the inside dives Paul Sims, and Mauro Gabiati sent spinning on around, and will end in. It feels as though he's been kicked to the curb by those 2 drivers. But meanwhile, at the front of the field, there's going to be Jamie Nuttall on the inside of Kieran Sharp. There's going to be another change of leader, and well, Nuttall right now trying to make this concrete, but the problem is that Kieran Sharp's never going to let him go, and will, based on their race that we've seen over the last couple of years, When these two are together, they're absolutely inseparable when it comes to pace and also racing class. But me on Felix Smoggy on the back of this right now. He'll want a role to play in this as we ride aboard the dashboard here of your number 7, the third place runner in the group. They have dropped Hamling and De Beck, who are still enjoying their own fight for fourth place after what happened on the previous lap. But as our German driver here looking up the inside, Nuttall there just taking his racing line, not feeling too pressured by his teammate for Cracked Racing. And Smoggy here just staying right in the draft tail of the two in front of him, hoping that right now it's going to be the two in front who take each other off the road perhaps, or just simply run a little bit rough with each other, and therefore he'll have an opportunity to find a way to smoothly make his way on through. But 3 minutes left on the clock. There's this lap plus another 3 more. So 4 to go, ladies and gentlemen, here at Suzuka. And Smoggy right now staying nice and close to the back of Nuttall's car. Well, Kieran Sharp dictating the pace up front, but any one of these 3 drivers could definitely win it. Behind Guillaume Hamling and Nick De Beck, they're together still, and I think right now afterwards a little bit of a tussle between these two. They've calmed down, they want to catch up to the leaders where they can, and then we do have Mav Gardner, Brina Hover, and another 4 cars along with him, albeit one of them is a lap down in the form of David Barnes, but otherwise you do have Fabio Falchi ahead of Hutter and Simmons, all here together right now in that long conga line. But we take a quick look back at what exactly happened up into turn 8 there, and in the end, well, it was David Barnes on the inside. I think Nick De Beck came in a bit too hot under braking. I thought he thought David Barnes was going to go a lot deeper into the corner. Can we get the on board perhaps of what was Nick De Beck with that one? Yes, we can, albeit we're going to see this a bit earlier on. So this was De Beck giving chase initially, and this is where they had to start all picking their way through what was David Barnes. They made the way up the rise, but this was looking down over the front of De Beck's car. You'll see their sharp battling with Smoggy, but in the end using that to his advantage to tuck up the inside of Barnes, and this is where things got a bit contentious. So De Beck on the outside here, and went a bit deep there and tried to then look up the inside into 8, and unfortunately as Barnes tried to turn into the corner, De Beck in the end tapped on the rear once, tapped it twice, and then suddenly we did see the number 3 of Hamlin taken to the escape route in order to be able to survive that one. A bit of a misunderstanding there, I think, between De Beck and Barnes, but I'm sure they'll talk about that one after the race and clear the air. I think there was no malice meant by either driver, to be fair. But back to live race we come. And with 1.5 minutes left, well, here's Kieran Sharp going on to what is going to be to the checker flag. And, well, Jamie Nuttall, meanwhile, well, he's fallen back in this group. Felix Smoggy has found his way ahead. And, well, Guillaume Hamling has almost brought himself and Nick De Beck onto it. The only problem is he's picked up a yellow flag. That's a slowdown. He's going to have to try and burn it quickly. He won't have long to burn it here. Normally about 25 seconds at a shorter circuit. But the Cracked Racing driver has found a way to magically move forward. But he has to serve the slowdown now. That is going to let De Beck on through. And unfortunately, that means their pursuit of the leaders suddenly comes to a bit of a halting point as Nick De Beck is now 2 seconds off the back of Nuttall's car after Hamlin was able to get so close for a brief moment. But then again, we are in the penultimate lap of racing, so the next lap, you can imagine it's going to be all elbows out between these drivers, coming up the hill and through turns 8 and 9. And coming over the rise, right now Sharp, leader with 1 more to go. Can he hold on, or can Felix Smoggy make it 2 out of 2 here today and really show that he is the master of the Japanese Sprint in the GR86? Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. White flag waves. Your top 3 is Sharp, Smoggy and Nuttall going on to this lap, but will they be that way at the end of it? We're about to find out. As you can see De Beck and Hamling a little bit further back on the right of the picture, but here comes another of the Smoggy looking around the outside, and we're going all the way around in the number 7. Sharp gives him the space, and Felix Smoggy right now trying to get the outside done at 2 to get to the inside of 3, as meanwhile Jamie Nuttall there behind, but it's not quite enough. Now looking into the inside of the S's, but it's too much apex curve there for Felix Smoggy. He has to back off, so Sharp holding on for now. And going up the hill through turns 5 and 6 now. Well, as we can see, number 23 here of Kieran Sharp doing everything right at the moment, but coming down to 6 in towards 7 and 8. There's going to be 2 more major corners coming up. Here's the left, but now it's going to be the very sharp right-handers to complete this lap. Will Smoggy go for the dive? He thinks about it, but he's not close enough to do it. Instead, he almost dives his way to the gravel, coming down to the final corner. Well, with the TSRC Esports machine, I think for Kieran Sharp, he's going to get this done. Smoggy runs wide, and for Kieran Sharp, it's going to be the win in race number 2, just ahead of Jamie Nuttall, who outruns Felix Smoggy to a line, and then it's going to be Nick De Beck in 4th place ahead of Guillaume Hamling, and then we will see in 6th place there, it's going to be Mav Gardner coming across the line for TSRC, ahead of Stefan Hutter, who just fends off Fabio Falchi to a line, and then it will be Daniel Simmons and William Charler who complete that top 10. Vincenzo Stagnito finishes best of the rest in 11th place, only 3 seconds ahead of Paul Sims, who had definitely a very eventful race to say the least, and then we will see David Barnes finish a lap down there in 17th place. But just behind is Mauro Gabbiati, who takes home 13th ahead of Francesco Cadulo. And then we will see finishing in 15th place there, none other than Valerio Tedeschi. And then we've got a little bit of time before we do get to your last finish of this race. And it is going to be none other than Matt Smith, who makes his way over the crest of 8 and in towards 9. And, well, he will be your last lead lap finisher. But what a race it's been, this one, ladies and gentlemen. An absolutely entertaining one. A very entertaining pair of races, we can say. And, well, as he makes the one down, Matt Smith will park the car up and know that he's done what needs to be done here today. He's enjoyed his race, no doubt about it. They've all enjoyed it, I would say. And was all tries to tow the way back to the pit lane. Well, let's take a look at the scenic view and with the race result, albeit there won't be any insured inquiries for this one, because this is all about having a bit of fun. So as we look to the results, of course, we start off by taking a look at your initial sprint race results. So this was the finishing positions of the 10-minute race at the start of the day. And then we got to see in race number 1, Felix Woggy lead the way to victory ahead of Kieran Sharp and Guillaume Hamling. The Cracked Racing drives first and third on the podium, but split by the Sim Racing Collective Esports machinery. Then we saw William Chandler carrying the theme of Cracked Racing all the way through to 5th, with Stefan Hutter there for the team. And it was Mav Garnett in 6th place for TSRC ahead of Vincenzo Stagnito. Jamie Nuttall, Nick DeBeck and Francesco Cadulo completed your top 10 there, with the Cracked Racing drive being relegated down the order, but he was able to squeeze his way back into 8th place. Cadulo for Passione course, he was only what was 7 tenths behind DeBeck at the finish line, and in turn he was only 2 seconds ahead of Daniel Simmons, who took best rest and length for Cracked Racing, and it was the privateers of Fabio Falchi and also Valerio Tedeschi there, 12th and 13th. Paul Sims took 14th for Simoff Racing ahead of Cracked Racing's Matt Smith, with Mauro Gabbiati and David Barnes completing the finishing order for race number 1. But of course we inverted that to create your starting order for race number 2, and whilst the buy around Racing Drive might have started on pole, well in the end he didn't quite finish with the win in race number 2. Instead, the win went to none other than Kieran Sharp, who took the win by 5 tenths to the Sim Racing Collective Esports, head of Jamie Nuttall. It was a Cracked Racing 2-3 there, with Nuttall just outrunning Swoggy to the line by the best part of what was a tiny margin, only 9 thousandths at the finish line. And then behind the German driver, it was Nick DeBeck there who did well to hold off Guillaume Hamling right at the end of the race. From the top 5, behind the Cracked Racing drive, it was TSRC's Mav Gardner in 6th, ahead of Stefan Hutter, with the Cracked Racing drive ahead of Fabio Falchi. And then we did see none other than Daniel Simmons and William Chandler complete the top 10 for Cracked Racing. In 11th, it was Vincenzo Stagnito ahead of Paul Sims, with the Simoff Racing drive unfortunately not quite able to bring home a top 10. And then it was Mauro Gabbiati in 13th place ahead of Francesco Cadulo, and the Passione course driver was 3 seconds ahead of Valerio Tedeschi, with Cracked Racing's Matt Smith your last lead lap finisher in 16th. And then finishing on a lap down in 17th, it was your pole sitter of David Barnes there for Buy Around Round Racing. But that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes all of our racing here today at the Suzuka East Circuit. It's been an entertaining 2 races. It's all been about fun today and celebrated, of course, the Toyota GR86 Cup car. And we've seen plenty of brilliant racing action. But with that, sadly, there's going to be no interviews today. But instead, it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed this one-off event, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking to yourself, you know what, it looks fun at the Sim Racing Collective, how do I exactly join the community, and how can I get on the grid for some of their more fun events, or even some of their more serious events, and everything in between? Well, to do that, all we need to do is head firstly to our website, and that's of course www.tsrc.club, as you can see on screen. And if you do head to our website today, well, the great thing about going to our website is everything's laid out absolutely succinctly for you. Right at the centre is a link to join our official Discord, and that is the beating heart of the community, and that's where you'll want to go if you want to be on the grid for any of our series. On the left-hand side, you have all of our socials, our SimGrid page, our Twitter account, our Instagram, our YouTube, our Twitch, and also our Discord there, another link to it if you desire it. And at the very bottom, we have our partners and affiliates, and at the very top in the top right, well, you're on the homepage here, but if you do want to see the latest news in the community, or alternatively, the rules and regulations for going racing, we'll definitely check those out up there. But alternatively, if you are a bit more of a social media person, you don't want to go to our website, well then skip the queue and go straight to our Twitter at twitter.com/TSRC_official. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter and stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements. Now, I'd like to say a big thank you to our partners and affiliates, who do, of course, include none other than SimGrid, Coach Dave Academy, a Brucey Simulation of Motorsport, not shown on here, one of our new partners and affiliates for 2026 TAM livery. And also, we'd like to give a shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at the Sim Racing Collective as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that status, and long may it continue throughout 2026. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is on course for next time? Well, we haven't quite got any more special events lined up at the moment, but there's going to be plenty more racing to come at the Sim Racing Collective throughout 2026. And if you are looking for something a bit more serious and you don't mind joining the grid a bit late in the season, well, of course, we do have our ongoing Porsche Cup Series, which has been running since the 8th of February 2026. And well, this is a celebration and a focus on the Porsche 992.2 GT3 Cup car. Recently introduced the iRacing simulator as a 2026 Season 1's update. And I'll tell you one thing, with the introduction of electronics, it's made these cars even more challenging to drive, even though everybody thought with the introduction of the electronics packages, they were going to become easier to drive. And if you do want to get on the grid, we still do have 2 rounds of racing to go in the Porsche Cup Series. And here is, of course, our calendar for that series. And well, we've already been to the Algarve circuit in Portugal. We've also been to Japan for the Fuji Speedway, just up the road from Suzuka. And we've also been to the US of A for Sebring. But next time out, on the 1st of March, this running on Sundays, we will be at the Alton Park International Circuit for round 4, 2 of our sprint races. And we would love to see you there. Whether you opt to tune in for the racing that we brought to you live from the circuit side on our YouTube channel, alternatively, you choose to get on the grid yourself, and we'd love to see you join a grid that's absolutely full of fighting, regardless of where you look. And of course, we will be wrapping up the season a week later on March the 8th at the Road Atlanta Full Course, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in the US state of Georgia. So there's never been a better time to get on the grid here at the Sim Racing Collective, and that's a taste of what we've got for our series. And you've also had a taste today of what we do have racing-wise, and we do have some fun events. So do stay tuned for plenty more race at the Sim Racing Collective throughout 2026. But for now, sadly, that's all we've got time for today. We have been the Sim Racing Collective. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been great to see so many of you tuning in tonight in the YouTube chat. And until next time, well, I've been your commentator, Paul Walsh. And do remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, from all of us here at TSRC, remember to stay on track. Good night.